I actually haven't even seen. I've seen him introduce himself. Okay, here we go. Why Christians should oppose transgenderism? I wonder why the Christians feel in opposition to this. It's almost as if their religion somehow informs their opinion negatively on things. It almost harms their critical thinking in some way. Let's see what happens.
Welcome to the Christian Contrast, where we talk about how walking with Jesus leads us to live differently than the world around us. And I'm Dan here with a solo episode, and the title for this episode is Why Christians Should Oppose Transgenderism.
Wow. What a nice guy. Wow. He's so nice.
Now, in many ways, I mean, you probably saw the title before you clicked on this, but in many ways, this can sound like a very negative topic to talk about. And even some of you might feel like, is this the right way to talk about it, that we as Christians should oppose transgenderism? And I want to say yes, in the same way that we as Christians oppose racism.
Oh boy, this is a good one already. Okay. Literally no idea where you could connect the dots here. I'm ready.
I don't think anybody would object to that. If I had a podcast episode titled Why Christians Should Oppose Racism, nobody would read that and then say, wait, are you saying that we're going to be mean to racists? You would read that and say, no, we're trying to eradicate, we're trying to do away. We are saying that we as Christians are opposed to something that is dangerous and something that is harmful to others. We are opposed to racism.
I love that he's going into this already hedging. Like, look, guys, at least I'm not a racist, okay? I'm a good guy, as you can see. Now, these other people, I fucking hate these other people, but not these people. I mean, unless some of these people are those other people, in which case, yeah, fuck them.
What I want to say is, I think that we also need to be opposed to transgenderism. I think that there's a big temptation for many of us as Christians to kind of feel like, hey, maybe internally I object to it. And if the subject were to come up in a very personal way, maybe I would figure out a way to navigate through that. But really, I'm going to sort of stay away from it. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm not going to be overt about my opposition to it because it might just end up bringing hurt feelings, and I don't want to hurt people's feelings.
It's interesting that he's obviously like, this has been a conversation has been going on in normie circles in which most of them are like, I'm going to stay out of it. And he's like, no, we should be opposed to it.
I'm going to give 4 reasons why I think that if there was a time where maybe it was unclear that Christians need to be more overt in our opposition to this, that time has passed. So I'm going to give 4 reasons why Christians need to oppose transgenderism. If you have some lingering questions about this, I think in walking through these reasons, it's going to become more clear. And also just in walking into it, I want to say, I'm not going to do a lot in this episode to sort of establish Scripture's point of view on this. I will do that a little bit. This episode is less about trying to convince people that are in favor of transgenderism.
Transgenderism. I guess at this point, we've let him talk for a little bit. At this point, it should be we should draw our line in the sand, okay? Transgenderism. I don't care what the fuck you call it. I don't care what names you have for any of our social conventions or buckings of those conventions. I don't care. Do whatever you want with your life. There's no ethical argument you could make to have me tell somebody else how to live their life. Now, if they're hurting somebody else in the process, that's not living their life, right? I don't think just being in a cute dress is hurting anybody. So, like, seeing somebody be happy in a way that you personally, I think his name was Dan. What was his name? Did I get that right? Dan Franklin. I don't understand how this isn't like bearing false witness. You know what I mean?
that it's bad. And it's more speaking to those of us who are believers. And we say, yeah, I am sort of personally opposed to it. And to talk about why it's important that we become more active in our opposition to this. So 4 reasons why we should oppose transgenderism. First reason is because this has changed from being a marginalized idea to a mainstream idea.
What does that
I
even
hope
mean?
you very have a fantastic day.
Skywise, thanks for the prime. So by that logic, shouldn't you be a racist then? Like the 15 months. Dresses are fun. They go swishy swish, and I say this as a trans mask. Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to wear dresses, wear them. I don't even care. Like, it's not masculine to wear a dress. IMO. Wear a dress. They're for everybody. I don't really give a shit. I don't think you have to be trans to wear a dress. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like. I think it goes without saying, but like, stuff is gendered because we agree it is. I disagree that stuff is gendered necessarily. So, I mean, obviously, some people are like, I think it's gendered, but like, if you don't think it is, then it isn't, right?
And what I mean is this: to some degree, issues surrounding the transgender question are not brand new. I mean, even as the whole idea of drag queens has been in the news a lot lately.
Drag queens aren't trans people. This is a thing, man. How do you even convey that? Like, dude, not the same. Not the same thing at all.
That's not a new phenomenon. You know that was going on for a while, and Christians weren't regularly talking about it. And maybe that was appropriate, that it felt like, okay, this thing is sort of going on. It's going on in the background. It's definitely not mainstream. Most people, not just Christians, but most people in general, at the very least, kind of look at it as weird and maybe even look at it as deviant. They might not call it sinful, but they're like, yeah, this is weird. This is not appropriate. This is not mainstream.
I actually don't think that's the general vibe most people have. Most people I know who are, whether they're religious or spiritual or an atheist, generally don't give a shit. Like, the only people that give a shit are religious people. Seriously. This is a you thing. This is internalized, man. This is the problem with Christians. Christians don't have any sexual education, so all of it skews them out because it's taboo, right? And they're not comfortable with it, which makes a lot of sense given their social pressures. So I get it. I've talked to a million of these people. I talk to Christian people every fucking day, all the time. I'm the only fucking one that they've ever talked to, and they're just wholly insecure about the entire topic.
That has changed, and it's no longer something where we're sort of picking on somebody who's looking to do something in a corner and has nothing to do with us. This has now become a mainstream idea. And here's the illustration that I want to use to sort of have us think.
Drag is a mainstream idea? Everyone's doing drag.
This through. So let's say you're driving, you've got a couple buddies and you're driving.
They think education is satanic. Education is satanic. Satan's the good guy. literally gives the knowledge of good and evil to humans.
And you see a man by the side of the road. He's kind of dressed like a homeless guy. He's stumbling around. You pull over.
I like to say that kind of shit because it triggers these kinds of people if they're being like, "Oh, bless you, hail Satan," fuck you, passive aggressive loser. But like, Satan also doesn't exist, so that's okay. It's also the same thing. But I think if you read the Bible from the perspective of this is the bad guy's point of view, you will like that book more. This is Sauron's point of view. That would be an amazing book, by the way.
You realize, man, this guy is really drunk out of his mind. He's just not in his right mind. Looks like he probably urinated on himself.
And possibly large orifice. Thanks for the 16 months. Ooh, yeah.
He's looking sick. He smells really bad, and you're trying to figure out what to do. And your friends say, "Hey, we should give him a ride." And maybe even you're hesitant. You're like, oh, I don't know. Like, this is my car. This is going to smell bad. I don't know what's going on. But your friends convince you that this is the compassionate thing to do. And they would be right. That would be a very compassionate thing to do to bring him into the car. So you bring him into the car and people are talking to him. And you and your friends are talking to him. And maybe at first you're standoffish and you're like, I'm not sure I want to talk to this guy. But your friends are saying, hey, this is somebody created in the image of God. Why in the world would you not talk to this guy? Why in the world would you not give him the dignity and listen to him? And once again, you realize, hey, you're right. Just because this guy maybe abuses alcohol on a regular basis, just because this guy isn't clean, just because this guy isn't making good life decisions that have led him to this, doesn't mean that I shouldn't give him the dignity as somebody created in God's image. The friends are absolutely right.
It's so weird that he thinks giving someone dignity is dehumanizing them and talking to them like they're fucking deaf and they can't think for themselves and they can't fucking do anything. Like, we're just talking about an alcoholic, man. It's not that deep. Like, it's probably deep, but I mean, like, on the surface, I have an apprehension towards alcoholism too. Like, what a fucking scumbag, dude.
And then let's say that the guy in the car says, hey,
like,
I'd like to.
This is what I'm talking about. I think a lot of Christian people would look at this guy and say, yeah, a nice guy. He's saying all the nice guy stuff, but he's a fucking psychopath. Christianity does not teach you to value human beings or their life or their suffering. At least not in the way you ought to. I mean, it literally values suffering. Like, suffering is a good thing. It's a fucking death cult. It's disgusting. If you believe this shit, let me talk you out of it immediately. It's not personal. You've been lied to. You would, if I had been lied to my whole life by the people I trust the most, that the fucking earth was flat, each and every one of you would be like, look, it's round. Let me show you it's round. Chat. This is fake. His mind is broken and shattered because of this ideology. It fucks his foundation up. When I say religion harms your ability to critically think, I mean it from the fucking foundation. If you were born religious especially, your whole framework is off. You can't exist in reality. You have to relearn all of that. And it's not necessarily their fault, but their actions and thoughts are their own. Products of their fucking environment. Disgusting, dude.
Drive. And you say, I'm sorry, I'm not letting you drive. And then your friends say, why in the world aren't you letting him drive? I mean, what's the problem here? Don't you care about him? You saying he's not allowed to drive made him feel really bad. And look at him. I mean, he's homeless. He's consumed a lot of alcohol. He doesn't feel great about himself. He doesn't feel like his life is going well. He doesn't have this great amount of self-confidence. He's dirty. He's tired. He's discouraged. Why would you deny this to him? Why wouldn't you let him drive? Now, at this point, obviously, we would say, well, no, you're not going to let him drive. That's craziness.
Nope. This is not a sound analogy. Like, they're not drunk people? Like, what? Or dirty or whatever. You're talking about people. I mean, I think you're talking about trans people and drag people at the same time. Yeah, none of that describes the fucking shit dog you described. Their moral motivation of corruption by the promise of reward, punishment in the afterlife too. Like, this is what I mean. Like, it totally fucked up his foundation. He sees dressing differently than he would dress, and acting differently than he would act, and being made happy by things that make him not feel comfortable. He sees that as some kind of, like, sickness. And it's because of his religion. He has his frontal lobe is just fucking shat. Like, there's nothing in there. His little brain's kaput. You'd have to fucking work on this guy every day for years before he would come around on anything close to this idea. It's the religion that fucking did this.
You can have compassion.
It salted the earth of his fucking brain folds. I love it when these right-wingers equate letting someone exist to letting someone control your life. This is where it lives.
It's cold.
In the religion. Simp Sama, thanks for following.
You can bring him in. You can look to bring.
And whether it's a secular right winger or not, this is the core. It's always been this. The right wing is controlled by religious billionaire white men. Like,
bring dignity. You could show that you care about him. You can show that God cares about him, but he doesn't get to drive. He's not in his right mind. And I think in many ways, this has been some of the progress. It's not a perfect parallel, but some of the progress that's happened surrounding transgender questions in our culture. That maybe it started by just saying like, hey, well, you shouldn't just act grossed out by people going through this. They're really going through something. They're going through something that's very difficult, and nobody does this unless they're confused and troubled. And so you could say, all right, that's an appropriate rebuke that I can receive. I'm not going to just be like, ew, that's gross. I'm going to treat people like dignified human beings created in the image of God. And I'm not going to try to avoid them. I'm
sure does talk a lot about how gross they are, though. Of course, I think they're gross, and you think they're gross, and we all agree they're gross. But I'm not going to say, you're gross to your face. You can treat someone with dignity and be like, hey, bro, you need to take a shower. That's dignity. That's what dignity is. Hey, man, you got to get your shit together. Come on, bro. Let me help you. You're fucked up.
It has the juice?
I mean, these people are fucking unhinged. This is not what helping someone is. It's because these people think that their existence is to assert control over the lives of others, so they can't fathom someone else existing without doing the same thing. I mean, their religion literally commands them to do so. How are they supposed to think different? The only way you don't start to think this way is if you are in one of the sects that doesn't enforce that, or if you're loosey-goosey about your own beliefs. Like...
I'm going to be willing to be around
the religion is the hate speech. I agree.
them and talk to them and listen to them, but I'm not going to let them drive. And what I mean by this is I'm not going to act as if this is normal and mainstream. I'm not going to act as if this is healthy. And I'm not going to act as if they should be the ones helping us understand what is real and good and true in the world.
What is real and good and true. A Christian said that. How old's the earth, buddy? Like, is evolution real? You know what I mean? This is the kind of fucking thing I'm talking about. It's not just because I'm a big fucking fedora-tipping atheist guy. It's because I care about the fucking world we live in. And we have literal lunatics that live amongst us that believe in fucking resurrection and heaven and hell and shit. You ever thought about hell for 2 seconds? If the person you love most dies and goes to hell, is it heaven when you get there? You know what I mean? Like, this is just fucking simple stuff. What a conundrum, man. What do we do with these fucking mouth breathers? You educate their belief out of the system, and you let them believe it if they want. That's what I fucking think.
That would be unwise, and that's what's happening. This has gone from something that's sort of it's off in a corner, it's happening, but there's not really a deep need to comment on it because it's not something that's mainstream, to something that's become mainstream in our culture. And it may very well be at this point that if sort of appropriate questions were asked to try to figure out where everybody's at, that in our culture, the majority would still think, no, this is deviant behavior, this is inappropriate behavior. That may be true. But what I'd say is if we are going with the flow, we will end up going with the flow that says, this is perfectly fine, this is perfectly normal, why would anybody have a problem with this? You're cisgender, they're transgender, don't worry about it.
Yeah. What would be wrong with people having the freedom to live their own individual lives independent of your authority over them? Insane hierarchical bullshit.
And so in some ways, this is a little bit similar. I mean, in some ways, it's very similar to conversations about homosexuality within churches, where this dynamic started to happen, and it happened a while ago, where people that were more of advocates for gay rights or for same-sex affirming churches, and then sort of maybe other Christians who were saying, well, maybe I'm not quite affirming, but I'm more sympathetic, would say things like, hey, why are churches always talking about this? And it was this weird sleight of hand that happened where this became this massive issue in our culture. And then people were saying, hey, this is just a few verses in the Bible. Why are churches always talking about this? And of course, the answer was churches are now talking about this because you guys are talking about this. This went from something that largely in society we agreed was not appropriate to something that now as society we're saying, no, that this is appropriate. In fact, you're out of step if you don't think it's appropriate.
Yes, it is appropriate for two people to consent to do whatever the fuck they want with one another. I literally don't care. If one, like, it's not just sexual. It's literally just the freedom at baseline. Like, sexual is one thing. I don't care what your relationship is with sex. Like, you have the mind of a fucking 12-year-old. He has no fucking understanding of sex education. He's just a little fucking boy that he has wearing man skin and the life of a man. Like, he doesn't have a fucking grasp on reality. Appropriate. You could consent to cut each other's fingers off. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. As long as the two of you consent to do whatever it is you're doing together and with whoever else is around, whether it's sexual or otherwise, I don't give a shit, dude. You couldn't talk me into this position in any way. It only comes from magical thinking.
Well, now we've got to say something about it. And I think in many ways, as churches and then as Christians, and this even relates somewhat as parents, there are two reasons.
Useless fucking religion. Useless. Literally talking about, look, if we don't say anything, the world will go on without us. For the better, by the way. He's literally saying that. If the Christians don't involve themselves in this social war, then, of course, the left will continue to win social ground because that's where we're supposed to head. It is conservatism that keeps us from fucking doing this. They literally are dragging us to the fucking Stone Age where their beliefs came from. These types of people are the enemy of everything we ever fucking hope for. Right? Like, it goes like billionaires, the fucking government that is bought by those billionaires. These kinds of fucking guys. Charismatic garbage. Thanks for following, dude.
Why we might need to say we got to spend more time talking about this issue, about this problem. And the first reason would be if we see it cropping up all over the place. So I'll give an example. So let's say our culture, thankfully, our culture has widely agreed that domestic violence is wrong. If you are going with...
Domestic violence is allowed in the Bible. Explicitly. Explicit instructions for allowing domestic violence not only to your partner and children, but to your fucking slaves. What a dog shit belief system. I can't believe anyone with any sort of ethical foundation can look at their fucking Bible and go, oh yeah, moral, ethical people wrote this and I ought to live my life by it. If you believe that kind of shit in the Bible, you disgust me to my fucking core. What a disgusting set of beliefs.
The flow of our culture, you're saying, hey, domestic violence, a man hitting his wife, that's wrong. You can't do that. So I don't necessarily need to get up on a Sunday and try to...
My dad was not an atheist. My dad was born religious, into a religious family. He quit the church, but he wasn't an atheist.
Convince everybody of that because our culture sort of agrees on that. But if I was seeing cases
quit the church because they asked him for more money.
Up amongst the membership of our church.
They didn't raise me religious, though.
Where this was happening, even though we all sort of agree that it's wrong, if it's happening behind the scenes, we got to talk about it because people's lives are being affected by it. So that's the first reason why you talk about it, because you'd say that this is happening. The second reason, you might say, well, maybe it's not overtly happening all over the place, but because the cultural landscape has changed, because now the default position is we are affirming transgenderism, we've got to talk about it.
Yeah. We're affirming it because it's just a real thing. We're affirming the reality of it. Like, this has to be coped because Christians don't get affirmation about their fucking wacky-do beliefs. You're like, why doesn't anyone affirm my shit? It's fake. That's why. It's just fake. Did you know science has infinitely more evidence for the validity of every trans person that's ever existed and ever will exist than anything in the Bible? Like, any of the magic fucking shit that happens in that fucking dog water tome?
Because otherwise people are going to be led down a road. If we just go with the flow, we know where this flow is headed. So first reason why Christians need to be more overt in our opposition to transgenderism as an ism is that it now has gone from sort of something off to the side to a mainstream idea, and we need to be opposed to that. Second reason, and this just goes along with it, second reason why we need to be opposed is because this is a deceptive and harmful idea. It's a deceptive and harmful ideology.
Unlike Christianity, which is neither deceptive nor harmful to anyone, as you can see throughout the history of the world. Insert literally any human tragedy and try to decouple it from religion. Good luck. Good luck decoupling it from religious belief. There are hardly any secular atrocities. It's fucking wild. It happens, but it's almost always. a fucking you just go, okay, well why did that happen? Dink. And then, oh, we ran into religion. Why did that happen? Oh, dink, we ran into religion. Can only go so far, dude. Why did this person do that? Oh,
it has
dink.
to do.
Was this person raised religious? Yep. It's getting hot in here again.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
True.
And surrounding a lot of the LGBTQ questions, Romans chapter 1, which this is just an aside, some Christians have kind of turned to calling Romans 1, 1 Corinthians 1, some of these passages on homosexuality have referred to them as clobber passages. And even some who are still holding sort of the biblical line and saying, no, that the Bible does teach that homosexual actions are wrong.
Say something nice. Fuck. In spite of the disease that was passed on to you by your parents, and to him by his parents and his people, you are able to no longer be religious. All you have to do is think and be honest with yourself. The reason that you feel defensive about your religious belief is because they told you you're supposed to feel defensive about it. You're supposed to be paranoid about me trying to tell you that it's not real. I wonder why they would build that in. You know what atheism doesn't say? Don't be paranoid about me. Try to prove God. Go ahead. I'm very confident you can't do it. And that's okay, because it's just not real. It's fine. The reality is that we're all we got. And if you're opposed to humanism, man, in the way that you are, I mean, literally a death cult, you're no fucking use to me. In fact, you're malignant.
Are still calling these clobber passages as if it's this compassionate thing to say, hey, we're not going to clobber people with these. Guys, this is God's word. I will never call any passage of God's word a clobber passage. That's just a weird thing to do. That's a little bit of an aside. Anyway, Romans 1 that does end up talking about homosexuality talks about it in this way. It talks about exchanging the natural function of men to an unnatural function. And then it talks about women in the same way. So it says men with men and women with women. They've exchanged the natural for the unnatural. Well, leading up to that was some other exchanges. If you go back and read Romans 1, it talks about exchanging the truth for a lie. And it talks about exchanging the worship of the creator with worshiping the creation. And so I think it's insightful that there's this path that leads us to the point. He doesn't just say, hey, something went wrong and then gay people showed up. That's not the way he couches it. He says this is an outflow of us exchanging the truth for a lie.
Like, what do you fucking do with this guy? Mary Scary, thanks for the follow. Like, do you see what I'm talking about? Like, he's not even thinking in reality. Literally, it hinges on what he thinks God wants based on a Romans passage. The fucking, what was that? John? Which one was it? I forget. Anyway, fucking letters, dude. It's so fucking silly. So fucking silly, dude.
When you think even beyond the question about homosexuality and the question about transgenderism, that this is much more overtly exchanging the truth for a lie.
Go back in time and kill the guy that wrote those fucking words.
The idea that even now we're being told you should say something untrue, that you know is untrue because it's the nice thing to do. So you should.
You know is untrue because it's the nice thing to do. Do you see what I'm talking about? Useless.
You should call him her. You should call her him. We are exchanging the truth for a lie. And this is not a victimless crime. This is not a victimless idea. People are being led into harm, sometimes physical harm, but at the very least, they are being led further into deception. If we are going with the flow in this, what we're saying to a whole bunch of people who are being deceived is we are going to affirm that your delusion is correct.
Unlike Christianity, which confirms none of my delusions. No delusions within Christianity, he says, without a drop of insincerity at all. He's fucking broken. Dink, it's hollow inside. Literally nothing going on inside. Religion rots your fucking brain from the core. This guy is all medulla. He's a breathing stalk. He does nothing of any importance.
This is not loving. This is not compassionate. We're playing with real bullets here. People are really dealing with this.
Real bullets.
Once again, you could say, well, that's not new. People were dealing with sort of gender confusion for a long time. That's true. But when society as a whole looked at that and said, no, you're out of step. That's not an appropriate way to handle this problem.
Society as a whole did not decide that it was an inappropriate way to handle the problem. Just religious fucking zealot worm brains. That's it.
Things might have been a little bit different where there wasn't as much of a need for us to be opposed to this solution to gender confusion. Now we need to be much more overtly opposed to this solution for gender confusion. So that's number two.
I'm more overtly opposed to anyone believing in religion, actually. the war against religion should fucking actually happen. Like, defund all of the fucking churches. No tax exemption. No more fucking shells for this. They're all a racket. They literally play into capitalism. They're literally the fucking center of most people's, like, okay, think of the power structures in the world and the people that attend those power structures. Are they at all attached to the fucking church? Yes, and they always fucking have been. Especially on the East Coast, dude. It's crazy. So many fucking people. Forever. Systemic power within that. Literally because of wealth hoarding in a capitalist world. Who do you know who sent people here to enslave and destroy the native lands? It wasn't just fucking... When we say colonizers, you mean Christians. For the record. Spanish Christians, French Christians... English, Portuguese, all Christians, all using the Bible to colonize these lands. There are French writings. My state was founded on French fucking priests and parishioners. Like the founder of Detroit was sent. Antoine de la Maucariac was sent here to Michigan to take native wives and convert them to Christianity as the church's effort to Christianize the land and to essentially win a culture war. Literally. I mean, this happened in Canada as well. The French came into the, I mean, it's at the heart of American capitalism. And like, for some reason, there's a blind spot for leftists. They're just like, nope, you know what? I went to church or something. My mom, my grandma, they're good people. They make me casseroles that I snuggled. And we had stories. It's like, yeah, they might be good people in spite of their religion. And then they also have dog shit beliefs. I guarantee it, if they're a fucking Christian. Definitely. It all comes from this. And any of the right-wing beliefs that a secular person otherwise has comes from the fucking Christians. Transphobia lives here. Homophobia lives here, literally. It's always been a religious fight. Always. Literally, churches die if capitalism dies, for the record. How do they fucking operate? You go in and you tie the percentage of your money so that they can thrive. Tied at the hip. Tax exemption. Why would they do that? Why would the government want any of that? Why would Republicans in government who are also Christians want that? Why would they want you to avoid being educated? Why would they want you to avoid having, like, sex education? So that you are bound to your families who you love to fucking work in the little factories. I'm telling you, dude. It's always been at the center of it. And if you have a blind spot to it, you need to stop. It's on you.
That this is a harmful and deceptive ideology and idea. Third reason why Christians should oppose transgenderism is because we want societal norms to be healthy. There's questions flying all over the place right now, sort of about
societal norms to be healthy. Societal norms to stay conservative. Who else says exactly this? Exactly this. Whether they cite religion or not. Societal norms. Ooh, Western civilization. Who says this? Whose mouth is it coming from? This is where it starts.
Between Christians and the state, and questions of Christian nationalism or patriotism or things like that.
He's very blinky.
Here's something that I would hope every Christian would agree with. I would hope every Christian would agree that it is beneficial if the societal norms, maybe not even the laws themselves, but just the things that are normalized in American society are things that are healthy and good.
According to Christian faith, right? And so every time something comes up, apparently homosexuality and transgenderism, according to a Christian, are not good or healthy for American society. However, I disagree. I think it's quite healthy for a diverse populace to express themselves in a way that makes them happy. Because a happy populace is one that is going to do well collectively. And if we are nothing but bound together as one nation. Right? We're literally strapped together on a part of this rock we call Earth by no choice of our own. We were born here.
I think we would be wise to say, well, yeah, of course we want that. When we're talking about marriage, we should say, we want the societal norm to be that married couples work out their problems and stay together.
Why? Why is that a good societal norm? I agree that every person, whether they're married or in a couple or not, any two people that have any kind of relationship ought to work their problems out. It is not through Christianity, however, that will be solved, because praying on it and letting God handle it is not how you stop being abusive due to your patriarchal religion that tells you the man is the head of the household and that women should shut the fuck up and that they are to bear a lot of children whether they want to or not, and that men are supposed to, do you not... This is at the core of patriarchy. It's at the core of capitalism. It continues to be the center, the heartbeat of the American right wing.
That doesn't necessarily mean we're all going to agree on
You ever heard him talk about marriage in a secular way?
what the law should be surrounding divorce and no-fault divorce. But at the very least, if we said, here's what we want the societal norm to be. We want the societal norm to be that people don't get divorced, that they stay together, that they work out their problems, and that they experience harmony and stability for their family.
You hear Steven Crowder recently just came out against no-fault divorce. No-fault divorce is a thing that we have a little bit of discourse about now, meaning that a woman can't just be like, look, I'm just going to get divorced from this person. There used to be laws on the books that, you'd had to have two-party consent. My dad was personally upset that he didn't have two-party consent to divorce during my parents' divorce, which is fucking crazy. I was like, why? She gets to leave. It's her right. And he's like, she's my wife. And it's like, not anymore, dude. Nope. She gets to choose. Translation of this guy's entire video: be like me, make the same choices I do, and don't question it or die. And I guarantee his household is run the same way, because he is told that men are supposed to have control of things. It lives at the dead center of patriarchy.
That's what we want. That's the norm that we're going to advocate.
Dead center.
In the same way.
Bullseye in American patriarchy, Christianity, and otherwise religious belief, because they make caveats for other dudes in the religious club. Although, obviously Islam has, since 9/11, has been a bit of thing. I mean, before that too, but, not always. If they're a billionaire from Islam with Islamic beliefs, oh yeah. Or a man of money in general, oh yeah, big time.
Way I also mentioned domestic violence before. We want the norm to be like, hey, no, that's not okay. It's not okay to go and do that. And we do have laws surrounding that. We want, if the norm is, no. If you're mad at your wife, you don't hit her, you don't push her, you go to marriage counseling, or you talk it through, or you go for a walk to blow off steam. You
blow off steam, even though you really do want to hit her. Don't kill the part of you that wants to hit your wife. Kill the part of you that actually does, he says.
It's cold.
Shake that cat. Thanks for following. Lily loves that. Thanks to the biddies. Meanwhile, when my mom left my dad, he was like, okay, cool. My mom was pissed. He didn't beg for her back. Oops. Uh-oh.
find a different way to handle this.
Good for him.
We want societal norms to be healthy. And once again, the reason why we need to talk about this more, I don't know any pastor who's like, finally, I get to talk about transgenderism all the time. Nobody's excited about doing it. Nobody's been licking their chops, just like, I can't wait to do this. We're talking about this because now this has become something that's mainstream. And if we don't talk about it, the people within our congregations, the people within our families, the children that we're raising, if we leave them to go with the flow, what they will end up concluding is the prevailing narrative of our culture.
The prevailing narrative of our culture. Did you just hear that? He just said, if Christians don't fight back, the culture will gently decide to do whatever it does, as cultures ought to. No real internal strife other than,
I hope you have a fantastic day.
I propose we eliminate it. We get rid of religion. We just stop it. It'll work, I bet. The Ender, thanks for the 44 months. Sheesh. Where's Frakes being a distinguished gentleman? Frakes is behind a tier 3.
There is no such thing really as a man. There is no such thing as a woman. There's no unique calling for men and women that helps us to form our identity. And if I feel a little bit confused about who I am, it's a totally appropriate solution for me to either as a man to dress up like a woman or maybe even do some different surgeries to have my body changed into that. That's a perfectly fine solution. That is not a healthy societal norm.
disagree. Big disagree. That's super healthy for people to be able to live as comfortably as possible during this time. I also suspect here's a thing that I think will happen. Okay. Ding. If children are from birth otherwise validated person who has a support system, and if they feel a certain way, they're talked through it just like any normal person ought to. I feel like all these surgeries that these people are worried about, I bet they'd mostly fall off. I mean, not 100%. Like, people are still going to be like, I don't like this piece of me or whatever. But I mean, I really think a lot of it has to do with not starting from the beginning and really knowing. And a lot of these people have gone through a lot of trauma, and now it's like we have like a gender binary, and so people want to feel like a woman or like a man a lot of the times. Now, obviously, that's getting a little more gray, but like, I don't think as the gender binary it starts to dissolve, you would have people really feel strongly they have to swing one way or the other as often as we do because we were born with this in this system. That's just my suspicion, and it feels like obviously you'd still have it, but I mean, I just don't think it would be like, you know, they're talking like it's some kind of fucking epidemic. I like my pee-pee. It's not as easy as the tramphos say it. Of course not. Like, it would be great though. Yeah, if you guys could all just be like, you know what? I'm gonna I don't know, step into the changing booth and get some swaps. I don't know. It'd be fucking great. I don't mind. Like I've said before, if I wish I could take my balls off specifically for sleeping. Imagine the flowy air. Ooh, be glorious.
And we don't want that as a
system. Put them in a little bowl next to the bed. Boop, dip them in some water.
Societal norm. Now, people are going to debate, some people are saying, hey, doctors who perform these surgeries should be arrested. This should be illegal to do this. And there's a lot of questions surrounding kids that I think are very appropriate to talk about hormones with kids, or even exposure to these ideas for young kids.
I think you're wrong.
That all can be worked out, I think, in some different ways. But at the end of the day, what I would hope we would all agree with is we want the societal norm to be, hey, if you're a person that's experiencing some gender confusion, this is not the solution.
Wrong. That's what the solution is. No, you're just wrong. That's what the science says. And of course, because he's a Christian, his brain just shuts the fuck off. He's like, no, wait, that doesn't sound like the Bible. Where are the trans passages in the Bible? And he has to make it essentially rope-a-doped homophobia. He has to do a Kansas City shuffle and get you to, actually it's homophobia, but we're going to do transphobia. It's the same stuff.
The solution is maybe you need to adjust a little bit your definition of masculinity if you're like, well, I must not be a man. If you're a man and you're like, well, I'm not into cars, I'm not into hunting, I'm not into some of these manly activities. I like to...
That's not what being trans is like. It's so weird it's weird. If I ask him what a man is, eventually he's going to say his fucking nuts and his gametes and shit. But right now, it's these acts of masculinity like hunting and fishing that he thinks is what makes him a man. And it's just like so fucking baby-brained. These people have fucking little pudding skulls. If you're feeling like you were born in the wrong body, what you've got to do is suppress it, because it may make weird dudes too invested in you and your life uncomfy true.
Read, and I like music, so maybe I'm really a woman. Maybe I need to transition.
I like music? What? Enjoying music? I listen to music constantly. What the fuck?
Or maybe you just have a faulty definition of what masculinity is. Or other times we might say, maybe I'm not very masculine, and that might be something to aspire to say, all right, God has called you as a man to actually cultivate some of these healthy masculine activities. And so again, that doesn't mean that you need to become a car guy. That doesn't mean that you need to get into sports. Some of those are just surface things that tend to be true of most men. But sometimes there is an aspirational sense. So say, no, there's a calling for God for me to be more masculine. So we've got some...
If you want to be a calling for God, if you want to be more masculine, then do that. If you don't, then don't. What a fucking weird guy. A calling for God. Oh, a sign. Just do what the fuck you want to do. Free yourself from this bullshit. Anyone in here religious? Expose yourself now. Stop it. Stop it immediately. We can do systemic breakdowns of the entire American government, the capitalism, institutional racism, all of that, and yet we can't break down religion out of your brain, out of your noggin. You don't need it. Think about this. Your decisions are yours. You don't have to. You're literally free of any obligation you have to an exterior source other than yourself. You are free to live your life. God literally is powerless. Literally does not exist. Live free of all of that. Unshackle yourself from this shit. No, I've never been religious, and so it is so mind-blowing to see how people are tethered to this shit. It's self-imposed. It's a cult.
Some other solutions to this. We could say, hey, maybe you have a faulty definition of what it means to be a man.
Oh, tacos. That sounds so fucking good.
You are a man, and you can just accept that. Or maybe there are some things that you need to live up to, just like all of us do. And maybe that's the proper way to do it. We want societal norms to be healthy. This is not a healthy societal norm. This is not helping anyone. And finally, the fourth reason why we need to be opposed to transgenderism is because Jesus has a better solution to this. Jesus came to bring life and to bring life abundantly, as he talks about in John chapter 10. And so when we're talking about this, I think what often happens, and this happens with a variety of issues in our culture right now, is we look at something like maybe transition surgeries or hormones or things like that. And at least culture-wide, what we say is this. This person is so much more happy now that they've made this transition, now that they've stopped hiding who they are and they've started acting like sort of the true self that they felt like all along. They feel so much more free, so much more happy.
Yeah, what's a little happiness? Fuck happiness.
And what I would say is, first of all, the data does not necessarily support that idea.
That's incorrect.
But let's say, at least initially, that's true.
Sure.
Because I think that there is a certain
initially
truth that happens with that.
It's like he is imagining that detransitioners exist, and therefore, well, all of them detransition.
When you're fighting and then you surrender, you feel relief. So if there's somebody that's like, I feel like a woman, even though I'm a man, and I feel like I'm fighting this, and I'm constantly wondering what's going on, you know, it would be easier if I just stopped fighting. If I just indulged whatever I wanted to do, I would feel better. And in the short term, the answer is, yeah, you probably would.
Are you trans? What the fuck? It would not make me feel better to be a woman tomorrow. I am not trans. I'm a perfectly happy cis guy. What? This isn't, that secret indulgence you have inside of you? Hello?
And so I think even as believers, sometimes we end up in this place where we're like, well, don't you care about them? Don't you want them to be happy? Don't you want them to experience relief? Like, why are you standing in the way? Why are you saying, no, you're not allowed to do this thing that's going to bring you relief or to make you happy? What we need to understand is that Jesus has something better.
No, he doesn't. If Jesus has something better, go meet him. The Ender, 50 biddies. It's wild how every single political position for 2,000 years has been written about in the Bible. And it's not shitty people changing ancient words to fit their narrative. God is so powerful. That's right.
And in the same way,
I mean, this literally is, well, not transgenderism, but, it is explicitly homophobic, the book.
that we might say to a friend that's saying, hey, I'm going to leave my husband so I can go with this
all the books.
Other guy. We might say, all right, I understand. Maybe your marriage is tough right now, and I feel for you. I feel for you because you're sad and you're lonely within your marriage, or your husband isn't living up to what he's supposed to do right now. This is not the solution. This is not the way that Jesus has for you. Jesus has life and life abundantly, and that's not found in us sinfully indulging our whims.
It actually fucking is. Sinfully indulging your whims is actually genuinely the path to happiness. I'm not even joking. All right, here's the case for hedonism, chat. The case for hedonism by your boy, Papa Jaku. All right, we're doing a religion video. I'm going to do my short spiel. We're going to change the words a little bit so I'm not repeating it to the same people that watch this stream all the time, okay? We are literally the universe. Carl Sagan once said that we are star stuff, and it's true. Everything that exists has come out of the heart of a star at some point. That's just a fact of reality, and that's kind of fucking cool. Literally, think about it. Everything that makes you up was inside the heart, the core of a star, the sun. Literally, this sun, not any other star, the sun. I mean, maybe way back there were other things that we can't identify, but you know what I'm saying. I'll even snooze for the ones that don't have the subs. We are very lucky to exist. It seems, according to our observations, that it's not very likely other stuff exists with any sort of sapience other than what exists on Earth in the solar system. There might be other stuff elsewhere, but it doesn't seem like the solar system has any sort of life. If it does, it's microscopic. Maybe one of Titan or something, one of the moons. So therefore, we know that at least in this solar system, life is rare, and it seems in other solar systems that's the case as well. We don't seem to have any like we don't see artifacts of life the way we see them on Earth. That means that we are in a unique position to experience anything at all. We are humans, so we are experiencing the most experience you can experience on Earth, I think, probably. Unless there's a higher experience in being a jellyfish or something, which I don't think is the case. We have the single most complex experience that we know about. Statistically improbable that we exist, right? So our brief experience, hopefully around 100 years if we can help it, probably less. We have this vessel. Now, some people get all like gung-ho about it and want to live like 400 years. I don't think it's about longevity. I think it's about quality. I would love to live a really long time. I think, probably. I don't know. But I want to live well more. And I think everyone ought to live well more often when you can. And we don't. That is not the goal of this society. This society does not value human wellness. This society values capital. That's it. Sometimes it values, like, entertainment, I guess. But that's a capital exchange. Anyway, we should reorganize society to value wellness. You can still do a little capital on the side. I'm sure we won't be able to kill every industry in the world. But, and I like stuff. Stuff is fun. I think interconnectivity is good. Commerce, a common commerce sort of makes sense if you're not going to do a barter system. But we got to get rid of, I think we're way too deep into the capitalism game for us to ever think about the commune. Maybe someday for somebody else. But we gotta get out from the fucking Stone Age. We gotta stop this. This generation, us, you and me, we gotta stop this shit. This has been plaguing the world for far too fucking long. No more. Stop being nice about this shit. Like I'm not saying like pick fights with your fucking Nana. She's old. She's had her time. I'm not worried about Nana's voting in 8 years. You feel me? Not too concerned about Nana making it another trip around. I am concerned about these people's fucking kids, though. Obliterate these arguments. Stop it. Stop being nice to religious people. This is the fight. This is it. This is systemic. This is core to America. These are the people that are trying to be anti-education. These are the people trying to be anti-medicine and anti-science. This is where it starts, in every church in America, everywhere. If you attend, stop it. If your friends go, tell them to stop it. Talk your parents out of it. Have really hard conversations. This is not a belief system that is good for anyone you love or yourself. You deserve better. This is stupid. Don't believe in cult bullshit. You're free of that. Free. Entertain the idea of a world where you have one life to live. What would you do if you only had this? Do that. And if being trans is part of that answer, or expressing your transness rather, I want you to do that because I want you to be happy because you get a little bit of time to pursue it. That's the case for hedonism. Okay? Hedonism, I think it's a bad rap because people think of sacrificing babies. It doesn't make me happy to sacrifice babies, and it violates their consent. So you can't do a hedonism if you're violating consent, just so you know. Anyway, that's the rules.
In a similar way, we need to be able to say this about transgenderism. It doesn't mean that we dislike anyone. It doesn't mean that we're saying this because we're grossed out. It means that we're looking at this and saying this is a horrifically inferior solution to a real problem that somebody has.
Inferior solution. Jesus is the superior solution to the transgenderism. Eat a bag of dicks. What a hateful fucking loser.
And the real solution is not to just indulge this.
Hiding behind a veneer of like placid, like, I don't know. He has all the vibes of an entire HOA. You feel me? Like, this is a just god awful person. He's gonna hide behind decency, hide behind his Christian love, and look, man. It's been said a million times, but there is no hate like Christian love. That's fucking real. Whoever said that is bars. That is so fucking real.
The real solution is that we all need life in Jesus. And maybe one of the reasons why the data is not bearing out that depression and suicidality is really going down after gender transition surgeries is because it's dealing with a symptom and not the real solution. I mean, we're all trying to figure out who we are. We're all trying to figure out, could I be loved and could I be accepted for who I am? And could I be welcomed even though I feel disordered? And this is not just for people with gender confusion. This is all of us. I mean, if anybody's ever been through junior high and high school, you know what it feels like to feel like I'm not quite sure where I fit into all of this. I'm not quite sure if I could be accepted. I'm not quite sure if I have value. All of us go through that.
If I have value. I mean, everyone inherently has value, and it's not granted to us by Jesus.
It has to do.
It's granted to us by our own subjective opinion of reality. A lot of people feel worthless because of people like you, piece of fucking garbage. This is not the solution. I have what some might call the only solution, the final solution. That's what I'm advocating for. Fuck this guy.
And then many of us are still going through that in different ways. This is something that we need Jesus to fix in us. This is something where we need to come to the great realization that there is a God who made us and loved us.
Oh, cool. And what does that fucking mean? That provides zero fucking answer. Oh, God loves you. Oh, thanks. Do you? What would you do if there was no God? How would you solve this problem? Assume for a moment there is no God. How do we solve the problem of feeling uncomfortable with one's body and their, interaction socially? He reminds me of a tuna fish sandwich someone microwaved in their break room fridge, limp and smelly. This fake concern for people is so gross.
And that he made us in certain unique ways to bring a unique contribution to the world. And that we're this mix.
There's an old saying that a politician is a person who can speak for hours and say nothing, taken that this person could be president of the universe.
We're created in the image of God, and that's profound and that's beautiful, but we're also fallen and we're broken, and so we have things to overcome. That's true of all of us. And if we're able to embrace that God loves us so much that he sent his beloved son to die for our sins and to raise to new life, to bring us into God's family forever.
What's that mean?
Then maybe embracing that is a better solution to going into gender transition surgery.
Yeah, he literally said nothing. That doesn't make any sense. Nope. Hey, does anyone feel like they're no longer trans now? Hey, Jesus loves you. I love you more than Jesus has ever loved you. That's a fucking true statement. I have more love for each and every person in this chat than Jesus has ever had for anybody. Ain't no fucking way. This is ridiculous, dude.
We're going into hormone replacement.
This guy fucking
The idea
sucks.
here is not that we're saying we don't want people to get help. It's that we're saying we do want people to get help, and that's not helping. Obviously,
It's
this
not
is
helping. He hasn't explained why it's not helping. He just finds it distasteful. Do you see, like, he doesn't even get to, like, why. You ask him why, and he's like, what do you mean? It's just, it's not good for somebody, obviously. To do a surgery? Okay. Surgeries aren't good? Why? They're not natural, is usually what they appeal to. Oh, cool. What's natural? We're appealing to nature and denying the fact of evolution. It's, like, fucking crazy. I do not... Here, I thought you just tolerated me. I do not... I do. Big tolerate. Helps that you exist. Yeah. Yeah, I do exist. This guy sucks.
Heated and controversial topic. The reason, once again, why I'm talking about this is because this is not something where at this point, by talking about it, we're picking on some people that are sort of, well, they're already feeling marginalized. Why are you talking about them? We're talking about this because this has become mainstream. This has become mainstream thought that we need to adopt the idea that men can become women, women can become men, and that this is a helpful solution to somebody who is struggling with their identity. It's not a helpful solution. We need to speak up about it, both for those who are in the midst of wrestling with this so that there is a better solution, and so that we say, don't go down that road, come down this road instead. But also for people who are just sort of going with the flow of society to say, we need to have God's voice in this equation. We need to
have God's voice in society. Oh, wow. What a healthy outlook. Cool. Yeah. Great. $1. Prove you're real and not an AI construct, Jake. We need to be able to believe in you. How would I prove I wasn't a construct? No one say show your dick. That's not gonna be it.
To have the voice of Jesus through Scripture in this equation and not just lead people to go with the flow of what society is saying right now. You know, if you have questions, comments, feedback, thoughts on...
Yeah, I have feedback. This is brain dead. Cool. Yeah, that guy's dog shit. Don't send me anything else from that fucking guy if this is what he's gonna bring to the table. You can't be a trans person according to Christianity because, drum roll, this guy finds it vaguely distasteful. Okay. A good argument. Quality argument to not let people have autonomy over their own bodies. Because actually, God, who is real and not fake or in his head, actually should have autonomy over your body. Your one experience in life should be controlled by another human person, not yourself.